Hey guys, new pack, new repeats, let's dig through them. First is Hoppip, and this one was nice and straightforward. The new Hoppip line is fully colorless and fits in any deck, so if you're running it in a grass deck you'll use the old one, and otherwise you'll use the new one. Notably, they do have different weaknesses, which is kind of amusing because combined with the colorless energy, it indicates this new Hoppip is flexing its secondary flying type. Skiploom is a bit more interesting. The new one switches out after attacking. Obviously, if you're using it in a deck other than grass, you'll use the new one by default, but even grass users might consider using the new one, since if you're running non-EX Jumpluff, you don't mind retreating around, while if you're using EX Jumpluff, you're probably using a deck that can pivot pretty well. Skiploom doesn't have a ton of HP, so getting it out of the field can actually be quite beneficial. That being said, the old Skiploom is pretty strong as far as evolving stage 1s go, especially with a Leaf Cape. For Sunkern, it's pretty hard to say. The new one gets more HP but loses damage and a slight healing effect. If the healing effect procs, the old one has effectively the same health, and actually there aren't that many mons in the current meta using 40 damage attacks, such as Farfetch'd or Kartana. I guess the new one lives through Charmander's attack. This feels like it's your call, but I'd probably run the new one. Sunflora's old card did 70 damage, its new card average is 65. Not only is the new card's average lower, but the important damage threshold to hit is 60, so you might not even one-shot a basic. I guess the new card works with Will, but running Will just for Sunflora seems pretty iffy. I think both of these cards are probably okay, but the low HP of both it and its basic really hurt it. I'd run Vespiquen or Apex Executor before I ever thought about touching this. Tropius has a new card in the upcoming Zoroark event. The original does 60 for 3 colorless, the new one averages 40 for 2. I can't imagine a world where either card is remotely usable. Your damage is abysmal for the investment you need, and it's a liability due to its high retreat cost. The new one has potential as a lead to stall for Superior to hit the field, but Grass has no shortage of early game walls, just use Shuckle or something. We're on our third Slugma. The new one is almost a flat improvement over the middle one, boasting more damage and more HP while already requiring fire. Still, I'd probably use the first one just to reliably get off an early hit, which might bring the opponent down to where a multiple of 50 can kill them, which is very important for Macargo. The Spurt Fire Macargo is unquestionably the best one to me, and the only one approaching meta. 150 damage per turn as early as turn 4 is astonishingly powerful, and makes it a very terrifying, albeit unreliable card. Magby can enable the newest Macargo, but the high retreat cost of Slugma means if you can't lead Magby it's pretty suspect. And Magby has many other cards that would much rather charge than this. Fletchling's new card has a higher average damage but an element of randomness. Use it if you like. Notably, 10 into Fletchinder's 40 might barely miss the mark, so if you're using the new Fletchinder you probably prefer the old Fletchling. Fletchinder's two cards trade health for damage, and both are about equally viable. I used to ladder with the original Talonflame when Rare Candy was brand new. It's quite a good card if you go second, but hardly a win con. The new Talonflame's ironically a much better card I think, due to getting almost as much damage for cheaper and thus being an even better early game abuser of Rare Candy, often killing mons before they even get a chance to evolve. It takes a bit too much deck space for people to really consider it I think, but it's very good if you're able to draw the cards you need quickly. We've got 4 Poliwags, counting a yet unreleased event one. The Call for Family Poliwag is the best by far, since not breaking is much more important than the nominal damage the rest can do. The event Poliwag's inconsistency will be quite annoying, but being able to one-shot a Litten or Charmander is no joke I guess. As for Poliwhirl, the middle one is good if you're using it on water, while the newest one is probably the best for multi-type Poliwrath EX decks. Being able to one-shot babies has helped me, but the original living through Espeon EX's attack and then being able to one-shot it as a Poliwrath has some potential too I suppose. New Tentacle has the highest damage of the 3, but I hate 2 energy low HP basics since they'll often die before they have a chance to attack, or else die immediately after attacking, so to me the original 2 are much better than this latest one. The 3 Tentacruels all require different amounts of energy, and the new one is the most disruptive of the 3, but it's painfully mediocre if you flip Tails, or if they have Pokemon Center Lady. The best one is probably the middle one, simply because it requires the least investment, and running Mantike or Manaphy to enable the other 2 just doesn't seem worth it. The new Slowpoke is water, and thus not competing with the original for deck slots, however you could run the middle one in water decks if you want. Nice attention to lore that it's dipping its tail in the water for a shelter to bite, though a bit ironic since this is the one that evolves to Slowking. On that note, the Slowkings are also different types and not competing for deck slots, and while I'm at it, same with the new Jinx. New Tynamo has 40 health, which actually becomes a reasonable number if you cape it, but there's a substantial power drop-off. I don't know why they made its health so low, especially when its evolutions aren't crazy. In the games it's got higher HP than Magnemite for example. I'd probably run the old one just for the power, but you're gonna feel pretty lousy dying to Bite from EVEX. E-Electric gets 40 damage for 1 or 50 for 2, plus the HP on the new one is a little higher. The turn 3 potential of the first one is attractive to me, but you might like the newer one just for consistency, especially if you're running it with Pichu, which you probably would. Both Electros cards actually look pretty good when you consider the support they have, like Elemental Switch, Zeraora, Pichu, or in the former's case, Will. The old one lacks the explosive power of the new one, but it has a bit more survivability thanks to its card effect and lack of recoil damage. However, the new one looks far better as a win con to me, due to hitting the valuable 140 threshold with red, while also being super effective to Ho-Oh and Suicune. The problem is you can't play both Red and Guzma on the same turn, so something like a Cape Espeon or Sylveon will live. Though to Electros' credit, it lives an attack in return. I'll probably try to build the deck around this as soon as I'm done editing this video. Our only new Psychic duplicate is Misdreavus. The new one looks comfortably the best of the 3 since it comes with a free hand scope, which sounds awesome for use with Silver or Red card. You lose a bit of HP compared to the original, but it's a small price to pay. Obviously the middle Misdreavus is still quite decent, where confusing your opponent's lead Suicune, Darkrai, or Giratina can create long-term problems for them. Pocket's card artists seem a little misinformed on the size and shape of Diglett's nose. The colorless energy requirement of the new one is presently meaningless since all Dugtrios require fighting energy. Instead, your main concern is power versus health, and you can go either way here. The new Dugtrio looks considerably better than the old one. Even with Will, the original's lack of power and bulk are extremely suspect, while the new one actually has some titanic damage to compensate for its extremely self-destructive card effect. The new Phanpy is quite interesting. It can't even attack until it gets damaged, so you lose the ability to rapidly kill Zubats or Eevees with Giovanni, which was one of the main selling points of Phanpy in the first place. However, its damage is incredibly high for 1 energy once it takes a hit or 2. More importantly, a lot of people are running this with Memory Light on Donphan EX. Donphan has 160 health, making it hard to one-shot, and only 50 damage until it gets 3 energies. By using Flail, it can potentially do anywhere from 60 to 150 damage on 1 energy, which can be extremely hard to play around. However, the strategy does telegraph even if you hide the Memory Light, since the opponent can see you brought Flail Phanpy. I personally like Middle Phanpy with something like Cape or Helmet the best, but there's merit to the Flail one. As for Donphan, I think Donphan EX is quite good for its early game, but both of the non-EX cards require way too much energy to be functional, despite their decent bulk and interesting effects. The new one with both Memory Light and Lucario might be okay, but probably not worth exploring. Original Farfetch'd is a testament to how powerful you can be as an early game low investment card, and is still functional even now, especially with the rise in babies. The new card is actually quite good too, with a more valuable HP threshold plus a stellar turn 3 if you run it alongside something like Mantike or Pichu. However, it's still a low HP card which doesn't evolve, and devoting 2 turns putting energy onto it only for it to die to an Oricorio, Sylveon EX, or Suicune hit sets you back quite far. The old one can attack sooner, and does more damage in 2 hits than the new one does in 1, so the new one needs to survive a turn or get several attacks off to justify its edge. Our new Lickitung still can't catch a break, once again a basic with an extremely high retreat cost, though of course these days you have Lyra and Nilima. The card effect is quite good, basically being a better version of the third one's attack, though Leaf works with the third one. It's really difficult for me to say which of these is the best. Honestly, it's probably the first one just for the chaos potential, now you don't really mind the retreat cost so much. The new Licky Licky is better than the old one, and it's not close. Our last 2 this set are the Teddy Ursa line. The original has a healing effect on a low HP card, which has always been suspect, while the new one has unreliable damage. New generally seems more useful to me. Ursaring's cards seem good in terms of power, but obviously the energy requirements are just much too high for serious consideration. That's the last of them. Thanks for watching.